it's scary, really, if you really think about it. But any human task, AI is going to be able to replace in the next decade, and it's going to be able to do it way more efficient than humans can do it.
Efficiency.
So AI is coming, man. It's already here, but when you look at everything from how we travel to how we communicate, look at ChatGPT. You could write a book. In 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, write curriculum, write standardized
If I would have had that, my grades would have been amazing.
Yeah, New York State's banning it so that the kids can't use it. But like,
really?
You know what happens when things get banned.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen this happen with alcohol,
right? Back though, Big Boy Neighborhood, beautiful day in the neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. I got different phones, I got pens and paper all around here, man. This right here, first off, it's my pleasure to have these gentlemen in the neighborhood, man. Now, Earn Your Leisure is something I've been looking at from a distance. And when I say from a distance as well, man, the work that you brothers do together is amazing. First off, how did Earn Your Leisure, how did that come together? Troy, you speak because you know how Rashad is.
Yeah. He's really been watching. It started in the classroom. We had a summer program where we had 30 kids, and they were interns, and they would sit down with me, I'd interview them, and figure out what they wanted to do in their future as far as jobs or careers, and I would go and place them with somebody in that career. And based on how they performed in it, we were going to pay them. And so being in the teaching and the education system, I was like, all right, school is cool, but there's a lot of stuff that they're not learning. And so I treated it like an opportunity to teach the kids curriculum that wasn't going to be covered. One of those things was financial literacy. So at the time I'm teaching, I'm like, yo, this is a disservice. Let me be a service. And when I was doing that.
And these are high school kids?
These are middle school kids. So they had that. It was called Crossroads because they was like, aged out of the camp experience, but too young to work.
Right.
And so they were just interns, but it was a paid internship. And so he was starting his financial advising career. And I was like, look, you should come in and teach.
And were y'all buddies beforehand?
Yeah. We grew up together. And he was like, yeah, I hate school, man. I'm like, nah. We need to teach them financial literacy because if they don't learn it now, what happens to them in the future? And once he got in the classroom, it was like, oh, I see this. But it became a learning for both of us, right? Like I got to show him how to classroom manage, how to write lesson plans. And he got to teach about finance. And I was like, whoa, this is different. All right. Like 2 years prior, he became my financial advisor just because he was my best friend. I was like, I'm going to support him in his business. He was my financial advisor. I'm like, it's going to be perfect. But I started learning more. Like I didn't know about IRAs the way I should have. I didn't know about 401ks and 403Bs. And he's telling this to the kids and tax codes and credit. And I'm like,
that early. Like my daughter's in the 9th grade, right? Yeah. And she was sitting down and she was reading. And she was reading Macbeth. And I'm like, and my wife and I, we started having this conversation. We were like, dude, there's so much more. Now, you can recall and say, okay, I read Macbeth.
Yeah.
But I've been in radio for this is my 29th year in radio. I think this is the first time I brought up Macbeth. You know what I'm saying? I was able to get through with my, in my career without having to go back to that.
Yeah.
But when you start talking about, I'm still to this day learning my taxes, my 401. You know what I'm saying? I'm still learning what my grids are and how much am I spending versus what I'm bringing in, what my stocks are, things of that nature. If someone would have gave me some of these jewels when I was in middle school to prepare me, come on, bro.
And that's what I think for me. Like, I never liked school. My whole entire life, I never liked school. But it wasn't that I didn't like to learn. I just didn't like how they were teaching me and what they were teaching me. So a lot of things that we learn in school, we never use, whether it's earth science, astrology, chemistry. The vast majority of people, if you're not a scientist or if you're not a doctor, you're never going to use any of that stuff. But everybody, like you said, has to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Everybody, should invest in a 401k. Everybody can invest in the stock market. Everybody's going to live somewhere. Either you're going to rent a home or you're going to buy a home. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like these are things that are really the most important things and they're not taught for the most part. It's starting to be taught now in financial literacy, but like we live in New York and it's crazy because when you think of New York, it's the capital of capitalism, Wall Street, and there's no financial literacy curriculum in the schools. So it's like, how can you have the center of economics and you're not teaching economics in the largest school district in America? So,
how did you guys know that we were ready for this? You know how sometimes you'll see something on social media and it's about the viral moment or taking pictures of what we're eating. Sometimes people don't want the so-called lesson. How did you guys know that we needed this?
I think it was his vision at first. Like when we started doing the program, I'm like, we need to scale this. The number one thing we were getting was like, how do we do this? How can my neighborhood have this? My kids need to have this. Where can I get this from? And he had the vision to say, you know what? We should record this, right? And so like we had Ab, he was working with me. He started recording the lessons. he was big on social media. He saw the outlook of it, and he was like, yo, we should do this and put it on. And once he put a clip up, it was like, oh, like this is something different.
And just seeing social media, like I used to be a financial advisor before this. Mm-hmm. So even before anything, I saw the power of social media. Now it's like everybody's an influencer and everybody understands you can make money, but in 2014, people didn't really look at it like that. They were just going on Instagram just to have some fun, and that was it. But just seeing, okay, this is the new wave where you can reach a variety of different people, where you could become a celebrity without having to be an athlete or entertainer. I kind of saw it early. So it was like, all right, well, if you could be a celebrity for being a trainer or being a chef, why can't you be a celebrity financial advisor? That was my original thought. And now it's like, okay, we're going to attack. And it's actually ironic because I was telling him, we have another partner, Mike, shout out to him. Yep. 6 years ago around this time, that's when we first started my own personal social media campaign right here in LA. And it was like, all right, we're going to start a social media campaign to get this going. And
that was 6 years ago?
6 years ago.
Why are you just here today? You know what you could have done to my life? You know how beneficial to me. You could have helped me. Can you imagine how beneficial to my life you would have been if you would have tapped in with me 6 years ago?
That seems to be the common theme when we walk around. Where were y'all before this?
But you got to think, and sometimes, man, we think about, I remember early on, right? I wasn't into investments. I wasn't into property. Of course, like when I first, just growing up, there was bouts of homelessness. My mom with 7 kids, it was 8 of us in the household. So the one thing that I did when I got on, I got my mom a house, right? But I wasn't thinking about real estate and I wasn't thinking about investments. I was more thinking about what I had in the bank. I would literally call my bank account to hear to hear what I had.
The automated message?
Yeah, just like, oh man, as opposed to being able to go buy this little piece of property, so on and so forth. And when you think about it now, when I say 6 years ago, all right, think about how much the climate and things have changed just in the last 6 years. And I think sometimes we don't see the 5-year plan. We think about what's happening today. But what I love about the work that you guys do, especially, is you also plan and plant seeds and drop knowledge for the future. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's on this quick thing right here too. But I see that you guys set us up with investment. And I mean everything, financial literacy, health, everything that you get from EYL.
Because, if you really think about it, right, when you think about, I was talking to somebody that is very prominent in black media. I won't say their name, but they were saying that 90% of black media is focused on celebrity gossip and entertainment. So when you're going online, this is the information that we're consuming, right? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, that's not beneficial. So why not have an outlet where you can not only learn about finances, but like you said, you can learn about health. Yeah. You can learn about technology, Web 3.0, because if we're ultimately spending all of our time being entertained, we're only going to be viewed as somebody's entertainment. Right. And we're never going to be able to actually, be leaders. So when we go to London and we go to Ghana, we see that like people are looking at us, black people in America, as leaders. They're looking at us for leadership. But the only leadership that we really have provided that has been exported is sports and entertainment. Right. So we have the ability to lead. So now let's change the narrative. And there's nothing wrong with sports entertainment, but we can do more than that, right? Our offering is more than just being able to sing a song or to dribble a basketball.
When y'all were in the middle school, were y'all EYL then? Like when you would go speak to the youth?
No, we were the cool kids though.
Right.
I was the financial advisor and he was a teacher.
And I don't mean, and I'm saying, so it wasn't a name. Y'all just.
Oh, when we started?
Yeah, when y'all started, when you were
Ernie Leisure came from that campaign that he was trying to run. Like it was like, if he makes it as a celebrity financial advisor, we all gonna make it. And so let's just support him. Whatever we got to do to figure it out, to make sure that he makes it, we're gonna do it. And so he was like, at the time, hashtags were big. He's like, I need a hashtag for this campaign. And so I'm like, all right, I got one for you, man. And I was like, earn your leisure. And he was like, nah, that's kind of whack, bro.
Whoa. you know, when you look at it now, you're like, man, genius.
I'm like, nah, it makes sense, man. Especially where we come from. People think, oh, we live outside the city in a town called Greenburgh. And they're like, that's a silver spoon. They live in the suburbs. They had it all. But there's the similar socioeconomic factors. It's just that it happens at a less of a rate. We come from those environments, but we had to work hard for everything we had. So when we go on vacations or, we buy nice cars, we had to work for all that. Right. Nobody sees any of that. And it was like, all right, we've earned some of these freedoms. And so like Earn Your Leisure was like perfect. And he was like, So then sit with him well, and then after a while was like, all right. One of our boys was like, yo, you should use that hashtag again. It's pretty dope. And so when we had to come up with a name for the show, he had a name. What was it? Money, Power, Respect.
Yeah.
At first, and then I wanted it to be Dumb Rappers Need Teaching, just because I like.
Damn, that's a hell of a name.
Just put it right out there.
He was like, yeah, no controversy. Don't want to alienate anybody. So I was like, all right. Well, Earning Leisure was our hashtag. Let's just go with that. And so now that's just been the brand.
When Rashad, when he was trying to warm up to it, did you take it and own it? Because I would have went and just did all the copyright and trademarks. I would have been like, man, like. And then when he came aboard, I would have been like, bro, I own it now. You know what I'm saying? I definitely own it. Hey, man, there was one thing that when you said, never tell someone you want to pick their brain, or hey, I need to brainstorm with you.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy is I get that from a lot of people. Like, man, I want to pick your brain. I want to, and I didn't realize. Even with me, I've probably said that. Where, hey, let's brainstorm. Why is that?
The thing about it, I look at life as a seesaw as far as relationships, right? And you're either on the giving end or the taking end. And so many times people want to just take, right?
Yes.
And there's only so much, because that's a form of charity, right? But there's only so much charity that you can actually do. So I asked the average person, like, are you going to a soup kitchen from 9 to 5 every single day? Probably not. Because then you wouldn't have enough time to actually work to support your family. You might go one time a week. You might go one time a month. You might never go, right? So it's like me asking you, right, off the street, yo, can I set up an hour Zoom call with you? You don't know me from anywhere, right? And only thing in that hour Zoom call is me asking you, how'd you get there? How did you do this? Da-da-da-da. That's charity, right? How much is that? How sustainable is that, right? And that's what people don't understand, where it's like, that's not the best way to go about it. It's not even so much of me saying for us. I'm just trying to help people just in general, because when you see successful people, they don't have enough time to talk to 100 different people every single week and for no particular reason.
Is
right?
that a turnoff?
It's definitely a turnoff, and the better way to go about it is to add value. A lot of times people go into a relationship and they think of networking, but they're going from a selfish standpoint.
Right.
Networking is, what can you do for me?
That's what I always say. If people come up to me, it's damn near, you might as well say, hey, help me.
Yeah, help me. You said you did 29 years in radio.
Yes.
Imagine somebody walking up on the street asking you to pick your brain about what it is to get into the industry.
Right.
Like, I've been 29 years
And you know,
of
it's a trip. I do give it to them, but I totally understand what you're talking about. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, and then it is a position where it's like, okay, there's a difference between, all right, let me give you this, but there's some where it's like, okay, I understand what you're doing here. You know what I'm saying? And 9 times out of 10, you probably don't get something out of it. You know what I'm saying? You probably just like, okay, well, I dropped some knowledge, and we'll do that. It's not always saying no to someone. But
just from a pure selfish standpoint, right? If my goal is to build a relationship with you, right? The best way for me to build a relationship with you is to say, how can I help you? Or this is how I can help you. A lot of times people think, well, I don't have money, I can't help somebody. That's not true. I might do enough research on you to know that you want to link with somebody that I have a personal relationship with, right? So I'll just come and say, hey, I know you want to link with this person. Like, he's been my next door neighbor for 10 years. Like, do you mind if I make an introduction? Who's going to say no, right? Or what I realized too is, like, a lot of successful people that don't have recognition, they like to talk about themselves. So it's like, you could just say, okay, I want to interview you. It doesn't matter what, I used to have a public access show before this.
Right.
I never looked at it as a public access show. I looked at it as a TV show, because that's what it was. It was on television. So my goal was to get the top people in my area, top accountants, top real estate people. Hey, come on my TV show. This is an hour that I get to spend with you, right? Now I'm building a relationship. You're getting on television. Doesn't matter what channel it comes on. You're getting on television, and I'm building a relationship. It's a value add that I'm adding to you, as opposed to saying, hey, you want to have coffee with me? No, I don't want to have coffee. I don't even know who you are. Why would I have coffee with you? Like, you know what I mean? So this just being real, and especially in New York, it's even harder, because it's like everybody's moving at such a fast pace. So it's like you're trying to link with somebody who they don't even have enough time to tie their shoe. They don't have enough time to take their kid to basketball practice. It's really selfish if you think about it. Like, you want to take more time out of that person's day for what? Like, so it's like when you change the way you look at it, now it's not to say, okay, give me something. Like, that's charity. How can I help you? Yeah. How can I give you something? And in return, the law of reciprocity means that by me helping you, it's going to come back to me.
I'll tell you another way, and this is probably another approach that people can use, right? Other than adding that value, because that's going to help. It's showing up in rooms. I always tell people it's not about showing up in the right place at the right time.
And
it's
I saw that.
Showing up in the right place every time. So I'll give you a perfect example.
And you say being in the room isn't enough. Please, and elaborate on that as well.
So Fat Joe's been on our show, right? We run into him all the time, right? So we see him. We go to the World Economic Forum, Fat Joe's there. Earn Your Leisure's there. We go to Super Bowl, Fat Joe's there. Earn Your Leisure's there. Also, again, at a certain point, he keeps seeing us in the same room.
Fat Joe here today.
He's following us now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He has to sit down and say, like, all right, I know what you guys have done, but tell me the business. Now this just leads to a different conversation because they keep seeing us in the same rooms, right? That's one of the things you can do. Add value to the people around the person you want to get to. So, all right, like if I know I want to get that person, well, who was he working with? Let me see if I can help her with her web designer. Let me see if I can help him with his graphics. And by the time your work starts speaking for itself, the person that you actually want to get to is going to notice it. Like, oh, we need to add that person because of the value add. But you kept showing up.
What about people that want to just join in at today's market price? Like you see people now, people don't want to do internships. People want exactly what you have today.
It's a long-term game. And like all of these things, these are real business. Like even that post, a lot of people got it, but some people got offended. They're like, well, you post, like, it's not about me personally. I'm trying to give you real life lessons that I had to learn myself. Because I used to go up to people like, can I pick you up? It didn't work. So it's like another way is referrals. Even this relationship, right? This comes through a referral. We have a mutual friend, David Gross.
Yes, sir.
So it's like people just try to jump in and it's like, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. That's not really the best way to go about it. The best way to go about it is build solid relationships, add value. Once you have enough value add, ask for a referral, right? That's easier way into the door as opposed to somebody just cold calling or DMing somebody like, hey, I want to get on your radio show.
Right.
So people have to look at the long game. Yeah. Instant gratification. Social media makes everybody want instant gratification. Yeah. It's like you just start today and you want to become a billionaire
it would
tomorrow.
Be like us starting Earn Your Leisure and calling you up and saying, we need to be on your show.
Right, yeah.
And you probably going to look at us like, why do I need to have you?
That's true.
Right? And so it was like, all right, if nobody is in our lane, why don't we just create so much value that they can see the reason that the audience needs to hear what we're doing. They need to feel the impact of what we're doing. And so, all right, Earn Your Leisure created. Yeah, we didn't start with the A-level, I guess, celebrity, but we built from the ground up. That's why it's called Earn Your Leisure.
Right.
Everything we've done has been a step and it's been earned and people have watched it. The problem with social media is that instant gratification.
Right.
Oh, we're going to start it and we're going to be super successful. No, you know what? Do you have the discipline? Do you have 30 years of friendship? Right? These things get discounted because they see the instant gratification of, oh, these guys are everywhere. You know what it's like to be everywhere?
Right.
You know what comes on the back of that? You know the sacrifices that come with that?
Hey, man, and even just the brief talks that we had just getting y'all into the neighborhood, I was like, they're really on top of their shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what's so crazy? Because we interview a lot of hip-hop artists and most of the time, not all of them, shout out to Fat Joe, he was on time. But most hip-hop artists, they come late, right? It's a 10 o'clock interview, they might come at 11.
I'm not sure. You experienced this thing?
Oh, yeah. Hey, man, even today when it was like, I was like, yeah, Earn Your Leisure be here. They was like, they're here. I'm like, what?
Seriously.
Nah, but you know what I learned? So it's like they come late, they come high, it is what it is, right? That shows you something. But when we interview Robert Smith, right? Robert Smith, the richest black person in American history, for anybody that doesn't know who he is. So we interview him on a Friday, right? We interview him at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is the earliest interview that we've ever done, ever. We get there at 6:30. He comes at 6:40 in a 3-piece suit. He already got $7 billion, and he's 20 minutes early, 7 o'clock on Friday.
Yeah.
So it shows you, right? It's a difference. And a lot of times people, they blame their misfortunes on other people, but instead of looking in the mirror, like, were you professional? Did you come early? Did you speak to everybody in the room? Did you introduce yourself? Were you sober? These are all things that you start to see, and it's like, well, this is how real business is operated. So if you want to be respected, you got to respect other people's time.
Yeah. And another thing about Robert, when he comes out the car, the first thing he says is like, yo, I love that you were a teacher. Like, he knew who we were.
Right.
Because he did his research on the other end. And like, oh, I'm going to sit down with these guys. I need to know everything about them. He knew he was a financial advisor. He knew everything about them. When you run into people a lot of times, they're like, they have no idea what they're coming on, and then they figure out later, like, oh, wait, that's what this was about. But he took the time. So that says another thing about his character. Like, professionalism, but also doing your research on the people you're about to sit with.
Hey, man, assets over liabilities.
Yeah.
Explain. and I'm telling, and I know it sounds so simple. You know what I'm saying? But we're really, and when I say we, I don't mean we, but people nowadays, they're concerned about what they look like, what they're driving. You know, and I've been in the business quite a bit, man, and I know I can't even begin to tell you how many celebrities or artists ask me for money that I thought were doing well. You know what I'm saying? So when we think about assets over liabilities, explain that as well.
Well, assets over liability started as when we was coming up with a merch idea, right? And it's like, all right, we're going to have to wear something, so we might as well have something that we own that's branded by ourselves. So coming up with the idea, and I'm like, Mike, I was telling our other partner, Mike, do assets over liabilities like a equation, like a division problem. So that's how it started, but it became a cultural phenomenon because we come from hip hop era. Like, so we're never going to be extremists. We like nice things. We love clothes. Like, so the liabilities are there. You can't just, you know what I mean? We're not monks.
Right.
But the problem is that when there's too much liabilities and no assets. So the idea is to have more assets than liabilities, right? And that's anything in life. So if your relationships, you're either going to be an asset or a liability, right? If you're in a romantic relationship with somebody, they're either an asset to you or they're a liability.
Right.
So you can't there's only so many liabilities that you can have in your life before you become bankrupt. So if you want to grow, you got to have more assets, right? And now the key is, and DJ Envy said this to us, and this was something that I'll never forget. He was like, you know, he buys all these cars.
Right.
He got all the rave, everything, right? But he was like, I don't buy a car unless I have an asset to pay for it. So it's like, if I want to buy a new Rolls Royce, I got to have 3 homes that's bringing in enough monthly money for that to pay that car note. So in a perfect world, you want to have an asset to pay for every liability that you have, right? So that's the whole idea, just to kind of get people to think about it, where money is not a voucher. How we was brought up, how most people think is that money's a voucher to spend. That's a never-ending cycle of poverty. It doesn't matter how much money you make, right? If the idea of money in your brain is to get it to buy something, you can make $10 or you can make $10 million. You're always going to be broke because no matter how much money you get, you're going to just continuously spend it.
Because we see it all the time. We're like, how did they go broke?
Exactly.
But when it's a mindset thing. Like what he just said is super valuable. It's a mindset thing. So like even when it goes back to you, when you said the first thing I did was buy my mom a home. Why would you do that? Right? Were you thinking like, yo, this is an investment, right? Could we have put this in our business name? How do we get tax write-offs on it?
Right.
There was the education that wasn't around it. But the first thing we see is like we grow up in the culture was like, yo, I'm going to get on, I'm going to buy my mom a house.
Right.
Yeah, what happens when you buy the house and nobody can pay the taxes?
Right.
We're not thinking about the education around it. And so like that's why it's the mindset shift. Like, yo, have assets over liabilities. And especially in relationships, right? I told people to think of these relationships like a bank account. Anybody that pours value into it, your bank account goes green. Anybody that takes from that relationship, the bank account goes red. How long are you going to let your account be red before you say, I'm closing this?
Right.
But the main thing is that instead of looking at money as a voucher, you want to look at it as a tool to make more money. It becomes increasingly hard to waste money when you look at it that way. Because if I look at a $100 bill as this is an opportunity for me to turn this to $200, I'm not going to spend it because there's a thing called opportunity cost, right? Now I'm excited about investing because I know that this is not really a voucher for me to spend. It's a tool to make more money. You got to put your money to work. Like every dollar's got to work just as hard as you work,
treat
right?
them like soldiers.
So once you change your mindset, now that changes the whole outlook on everything. Like you're not looking at life the same because you're not looking at it like I got to punch a clock just to make money. It's like I need to find a way to make money so I could put that money to work so it can make more money, and then that money can make more money.
Yeah.
How many times have you heard, and if people are honest with you, that a lot of what you're saying or the guests that you have on, they're hearing that for the first time or they understanding it for the first time?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
All the time.
And think about the ones that don't say it. That's like, man, this, And I look around, bro, and I'm like, I think about where I am in my life now, the age, and I can't do anything from the rearview mirror. I can't look and say, oh, man, I wish I would have did this. I wish I would have bought the block, so on and so forth. But I look now, and I'm like, okay, well, what is it going to cost when my kids want to do this? You know what I'm saying? What about my kids' taxes? What about how much it's going to cost? When we see now, even since the beginning of the pandemic, things have went through the roof. You know, the way that we pay for gas, you know, then they could push up eggs to $10 a gallon, whatever, $10 a cart. I figure like, man, if I don't start setting some of these and giving my kids these jewels as well, not to eat off of daddy, you know what I'm saying? Because I was so far into early on, I was trying to give my kids the things that I didn't have. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I didn't have it, give it to them. I didn't have it, and it was like financial. Dad, can I? Yeah. Okay. Then we got to a point where I was like, man, I need to not just give them the things I didn't have. I need to really show these kids how to continue to work, how to, and not work harder. I'm talking about working smarter too.
And also,
just
let
really
me just
quick,
say one thing.
Real quick, hold on, because that's a great point. Because the things that you didn't have, as a parent, right? I'm starting to realize that my kids don't even want.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, yo, I might be fascinated with sneakers that I didn't get when I grew up, but I'm gonna make sure my son has it.
Right.
He looks at it like, whatever. I'm gonna go play kickball in these.
Right.
They don't value it the same because they don't want it. But there's education.
Were you in my backyard when I brought my son them Nikes and he ran in the grass?
I'm like, yo, bro.
Okay.
I'm looking. I'm like, yo, bro. You know how rare these are.
Right.
He's like, who's Penny Hardaway?
Living through them.
I don't know him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it's important that we teach them lessons, and there's always an entry point. Right, so when you're talking about cartons of eggs, when you're in the supermarket with your kids, that's a perfect time. Oh, what's inflation? This is inflation, right? The price of these eggs were this price last year, and this is the price that they are this year because the economy. Right, so there's always entry points. I always talk about a story when I was in the car with my son, and
how old is your son?
He's 8.
Okay,
and he's listening to an IRS commercial, right? Because it's like tax season. And he's like, "Daddy, who's the IRS?" And so I simply say like, "Those are the people that take your money." And he was like, I want to be the IRS.
Yeah.
Because they take everybody's money. And so there's a lesson there, but now it goes into a deeper conversation. So it's about finding those entry points, especially with your kids.
But also, you brought up a good point that I want to piggyback before I forgot it. You said most people, their goal is to get their kids things that they didn't have.
Right.
How many people's goal is it to teach their kids the things they didn't know?
Exactly. And
that's more important. You can do both, right? But it's like when you give kids things that you didn't have, without teaching them things that you didn't know, they have no appreciation for it anyway. So it's like you can give a kid whatever. You can give a kid, a car, a watch, whatever you want to give them. They don't understand it. Ultimately, they're just gonna blow it anyway. They're not gonna be appreciative, and it's actually going to hurt you in the long run because what's gonna happen is that they're gonna develop animosity. When you give people things over the course of time, it only actually hurts your relationship because ultimately you're creating somebody who doesn't deserve what you're giving them. And eventually you're not going to be able to give them something.
Right.
Then one moment that you don't give them something, the animosity that they have for you is going to be tremendous. And psychologically, you're not going to be able to understand it because it's like, I worked my whole life to provide this life. I did everything for you. But they're looking at it like, well, you didn't do enough for me.
Right.
Because the one time when I asked you for this, you didn't give it to me.
I know it well.
But that's generational wealth. And so you work this hard, not to just work this hard, right? You want to make sure that it's not just a second generation. You want to make sure your kids, grandkids, right? So like that's the importance. And like generational is great, and people using this like cliche term, but like the real goal is to have sustainable wealth, right? So that your kids understand the value of using money as a tool, treating it like a soldier to find more, to make sure that you can make money while you sleep so you don't have to work till you die. These are lessons that you're telling your kids over and over. It starts to sink in. And so it's like, how many people gain wealth and by the second generation it's gone?
How important is it, like stocks, investments? Because, and like I said, at one point, it was about what I had in the bank. And I look now and I'll see certain people and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Because I paid a lot of tuition into the School of Experience, and I'm pretty sure that they have to. You know what I'm saying? So, and I can't, but there's sometimes where I look at someone else, and I've always been keen enough to look at somebody else pay that tuition into the School of Experience, and I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. Okay, I learned the lesson. But sometimes we got to crash the car ourselves, So I start to look at people now, and I'm like, ooh, man, I hope sustain. Attain, sustain. I hope, because, and it's nice. We buy things, we give things, so on and so forth. But I look and I'm like, man, we always think that this ride that we on, this wave, that this is going to last forever, And like I said years ago, I wish I would have done more, but I didn't.
Jay, it's like Jay said, in anticipation for precipitation, stack chips for a rainy day. You don't prepare you don't buy an umbrella when it's raining. You gotta buy an umbrella when it's sunny. It's too late. It's too late at that point. You're gonna get wet. You're gonna get wet at that point, right? So it's like you prepare for a storm when it's calm. So you prepare for the downfall. It's ups and downs in this game. So as an entrepreneur, like it's never gonna be just all good times. You gotta prepare for bad times during good times. That's just part of it, right? And it's like investing is so important because you brought up inflation. So if your money is just sitting in the bank, you're losing money over the course of time, right? Because it's not earning enough to beat inflation. So this is why you have to invest in the stock market. You have to buy real estate. You have to find ways for your money to grow. Because if you make $100,000 now and $100,000 10 years from now, that $100,000 is not the same, right? That $100,000 probably worth $60,000, $70,000. So just working and saving money is not a recipe to become financially free. Like you have to find a way for your money to earn money over and above like the little bit of interest that you're just going to earn.
And how do we do that, Rashad?
Stocks, real estate, business. There's a variety. Crypto, I mean, that's a little more risky if you're into that. But you have to, those are the three biggest things, I think. Stocks, real estate, and business.
I always tell my wife, I'm like, man, any street that we go down, somebody lives there. Somebody's gonna always need a place to live. You know, and that's the way I started thinking about when I started thinking about more of real estate. Like someone is gonna always need a place to live. You know, and that's always been like a safe place for me. Always been. But it's crazy because we don't have a lot of this dialogue. You know, we don't have these kind of conversations. That's why I'm so glad that EYL is here as well, because we don't have this. And I'm pretty sure, Rashad, growing up and being on that side and being, you know, on the financial side, did you see a lot of us?
No, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go online also, because it was like when I became a financial advisor, I'm working in the office and almost every single person in the office is white. Right. And I'm having conversations with people, and these are the conversations that they telling me. They're like, look, only focus on high net worth people. And they're like, people that are middle class or working class, like we can't help them. There's government programs that can help them. Don't worry about them. High net worth people. Well, who's high net worth people? That's white people for the most part, right? There's not really that many black high net worth people. Like I was just talking to Diddy about this, and he's like, yo, it's okay for him to be a billionaire, but that's not really beneficial when the average household income for black people is $40,000 a year.
Say it.
One person is just an outlier. It's going to take massive amounts of people to become financially free for us to actually make a difference in our community. So just seeing, and most people don't even realize the economic gap because you live in a community similar to yourself.
Right.
So it's like if you live around everybody that's in the same economic structure as you, it becomes normalized. You don't understand that 2 miles away is a completely different economic structure, right? Because you're not in that environment. You're not shopping with them. Your kids don't go to school together. You don't have any. So it's easy to kind of, and then it comes back to the entertainment as well. So if you can keep people entertained, if you can keep people marginalized in a certain community, it's easy to control them. And it's easy for them not to ever think about, damn, there's actually a little bit more to this situation, right? But once you get exposure to something, now it's hard to unsee something once you've been exposed to it. So now if you know this is the other side, this is opportunities, this is what these people are doing, now you have a decision to make. Do you still feel comfortable where you're at, or do you want to strive for better?
Yeah, it's crazy because when you're talking about that, that's the mindset, right? Like I worked like 8 miles from where I was teaching. The kids had no idea that this place existed. It was so I worked on White Plains Road and I lived in White Plains, New York. They were like, "There's a city that's called White Plains." And I'm like, "Yeah, completely." There's like that 8 mile road that M talked about.
Yes,
that is just a drastic difference. But what if we changed the mindset inside that bubble and they saw everything as an opportunity? When you said that you drove past and everybody was looking like, "Yo, somebody has to live here." That's an opportunity. That's real estate. But I'm looking around the room and I'm like, "Well, we can do this in the stock market right now, right?" Like he got a Apple. She has an Apple phone. There's a Cisco device right here. You got probably Microsoft Word running on that. Like these are all companies that we can invest in. You have on Sony headphones right now.
Right.
These are companies we can invest in. We're already consuming it, right? But what if we were on the other side of it as investors, right? We know that if I'm using it, we make these things hot. We've done that to plenty of companies.
Yeah, man.
But we never got ownership in it. And that's what the stock market allows us to do. To say, all right, well, if we're going to make it out, let's own a piece of it. And so that's when it's a long-term play. We're not trying to make money just today, but what happens when we own a company like Apple, and in 5 to 10 years, what happened? Tesla, same thing. Right. Microsoft, NVIDIA, we're talking about ChatGPT and AI. If we know these things are coming, we have an opportunity to invest in the companies that are going to move that space forward, and we can benefit from it. But we got to see the opportunity.
Did y'all see within the last few years, and that early on, sometimes we don't want to hear it from us? Did y'all ever get that where someone can come, Caucasian, white, whatever, with the same message, and people will listen, but for some reason when it comes from us, people feel like it's less value or it's not as validated?
I mean, he probably has a longer experience in it, obviously coming from the financial world. I felt like when we started it, it was like, finally, it's us.
Right.
It was somebody who was breaking down this foreign language, which was finance, to us in a way that we can understand it. And they look like us, and they listen to the same music as us, and they dress like us, because we were just, showing up authentically who we were. So it was like, finally. And so once people started gravitating toward it, it was like, oh, this is now our source. These are the guys that we can follow. They have great information, but it wasn't just us. We were looking at it like, yeah, we can't be experts at everything. Let's go find people that have information, that have expertise in other different fields, and highlight them as well. So that's how you really build a community. It's like, we're not being selfish with our platform.
Right.
We're saying, oh, you're great at that?
Yeah,
right, let's sit down.
And I noticed that with y'all interviews as well. It's not like y'all saying I and me, and y'all bring the experts on. And so I'm pretty sure when you bring someone on, you guys are learning at the same time that we're learning.
Exactly.
Now,
A lot.
Talk to me about the tour that's going down.
Yeah.
So we got a show called Market Monday. Shout out to Ian. It's myself, Troy, and Ian. And that's a show that comes on every Monday, and it's about the stock market and investing. It's a live show on YouTube. So that show has become a cultural phenomenon within itself. So it's crazy. Like, Earn Your Leisure comes out the gate and just goes crazy. And then it's like, all right, let's see if we could do it again. Market Mondays goes crazy within itself. So Market Mondays, we did Madison Square Garden. Last year we had Floyd, we had Don Peebles, that was dope. Jadakiss before.
Yeah, that Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, we did the Apollo. We did a show in Houston. So getting up for this year,
don't forget London.
Yeah.
Market Mondays I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, okay.
So
he talking about a different flex.
Yeah, that was a different,
Yeah.
a different vertical.
So
you know what I'm saying? Don't get them mixed up. You know what I'm saying?
So getting up for this year for Market Mondays is like, all right, what do we do to kind of just keep taking it to another level? So shout out to our partners at Ally. They partnered with us, and we're doing a world tour. So first,
and when you say world tour, bro, please talk about where this is going to.
Yeah. So the first stop is LA.
Hello.
The second stop is Toronto, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The third stop is London.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth stop is Chicago, and then we're gonna end the year in Ghana.
How beautiful is that, bro? Yeah. Like, and that right there, man, when you think about just teaching, and not just, but teaching youth in middle school. And years ago, I wrote a book. And when I wrote my book, it was more like I used to weigh over 500 pounds, so on and so forth. So I would have these conversations with people. But it got to a point where I couldn't have a conversation with everybody. So I was like, man, I got to put it in a book. So that way the masses could have this book or have this knowledge, whatever it may be. So when you think about, man, we changing these lives in this middle school, then you say, okay, we're going to open it up to, social media, open it. And now the world is listening. And you see like people don't even vacation some of the places where y'all going to sit down with people and spread this knowledge, bro. You know what I'm saying? And even when y'all was like Madison Square Garden, like we putting together something right now, right? And we're not trying to do we're not trying to do crypto. You know what I'm saying? We're not trying to do the forum. For one, who gonna show up? You know what I'm saying? But how does that feel, man, when you know there's something that you're really true to and that you really put the time in, that you can go to these places and people will show up for this knowledge as well?
It's humbling.
Yeah, man.
It's extremely humbling to see that people are coming out. It is not to be entertained by a rap that we have.
Right.
It's really to be educated by the knowledge that we have and mix it with pop culture and have entertainment. I always say it like this, man. We looked at Muhammad Ali. We're huge fans of Muhammad Ali. And when we traveled the world fighting, it was to become the world's champion. Mm-hmm. It wasn't to be America's champion, right? The Thrill in Manila was very intentional. Right. The Rumble in the Jungle was very intentional. And so we kind of took that blueprint. We're like, yo, if we can reach this many people here in America, there's these same issues that are happening on other parts of the world, other continents, other countries. Why can't we champion those issues? Why can't we be the voice for those people, or find the voices for those people to give them the information? And so to see it when we go to Lagos, Nigeria, and people are showing up to network events and they're like, wow, man, I love what y'all do. This is incredible. Here's how we can incorporate some of the information. Because a lot of information, like when we're talking about real estate and taxes, it doesn't relate to them.
Right,
but
right.
it gives them a mindset that, like, wait, maybe we should investigate this a little bit further. And so now we get to champion the people from there. And when we go to Egypt, we do the same thing. When we go to London, we do the same thing. It's like, this is it. This is a revolution.
And have y'all done Egypt already?
Yeah,
we didn't do an event in Egypt. We went to Egypt, and we had a group of people that went with us. We actually did a live podcast out there. It was dope. We had a dope experience in Egypt for sure.
Overlooking the Nile.
Yeah, but the thing about the shows is,
hey man, and I'm looking at y'all, and I know y'all probably looking like, man, is Big a little jealous? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
with the pyramids in the background.
yeah, you know, just out there, Big. You know what I'm saying? Out there in London, you know, I have my pinky up. Did you see that? I have a pinky up.
They gave me a couple camels. Too.
Yeah, man, but no, that's beautiful and that's huge, man, and that's really spreading the game. And when I say the game, I mean the knowledge. So when you do go over to somewhere like London, where we're dealing with a different currency, we're dealing with different issues, how do y'all have that common piece? Do you bring someone else in that speak, not the language, of course, but you know that speaks to them as well?
Both. So our shows are like, so the term is edutainment, right?
Yes.
A mix of education and entertainment.
Did KRS-One notice?
I got to meet him. I have to meet him.
Okay.
I got a story. I'll tell you after.
Right,
yeah, I got to meet him.
Shout out to KRS.
Yeah,
so
KRS
it's like,
legend.
for us, a lot of people use the culture and they misappropriate it. But it's like, for us, we can't misappropriate the culture because we are the culture.
Say it.
So it's like we like, I had to always say, like, I had to learn business. I didn't have to learn culture. Like, I was arguing about Prodigy when I was 11 years old, about to get into a fight. Like, I had, like, the Michigan starter warm-up. Like, this is stuff that we grew up in. Like, this is woven in who we are. So when we do the shows, it's a mix of everything from, the education part to the music to the theatrics to, and it's just a whole experience to try to make it fun as opposed to just sitting in a boring seminar and people just falling asleep. So, like, when we go to London, first of all, we come out waving the flag, and it's like people didn't fully understand it. So it's like, well, we did the national anthem out there, the All Hail the Queen, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. So we play that, and this is in Royal Albert Hall. And it's like
prestigious,
the most prestigious venue in Europe. So it's like 4,500 people was packed.
Oh, Jesus.
So, but it's all black people. So we play the national anthem, All Hail the Queen. Everybody like, what is this? Like they start sitting down. They're like,
that's
what's
that
going
tuition
on?
to the School of Experience. Huh?
No, but it was done on purpose because it was like 30 seconds into it, we switched it to gigs. Talking the hardest. If you're from UK, Giggs is the biggest artist to ever come out of UK. So they call Talking the Hardest, they call that the national anthem. That's what they call that song.
It's the dreams and nightmares of the UK.
Yeah. So then we come out waving the flag.
dope.
So they go crazy.
So you got them then.
Yeah, they go, because they just appreciate that we did enough research to even know that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, most people wouldn't even know that that's even a thing. Yeah. So we go out there and then, we bring different people from the UK. We talk about topics that's relevant all over. So like AI and crypto and even stocks. These topics are universal. And then we'll talk about different specific topics that's relevant to that area. And the same thing with different parts of the country as well. So like when we go to LA, we're going to bring some surprises from LA.
Right.
So it's like, all right, this is what's really going on.
I'm going to be out there hating too. I'm like, they ain't LA.
No, we got the real
so
LA.
So the date for LA is the 11th?
March 11th. March 11th.
Novo Theater.
Damn. You hear that too?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we trying to do.
Wait, what?
That's what you doing to that?
The last time we was there, I think Ray J was doing
he was
that one wish.
That was Mario. Him and Mario.
Oh, y'all went there. Y'all went to the bathroom. The verses.
Yeah.
If I had one wish.
That's our guy. Shout out to Ray.
Yeah, that's my brother, man. Hell yeah. So in LA, that's the 11th.
Yeah.
March 11th.
And do we know all the times and everything on that, or is there a more info that we can include as well? We'll definitely put it up when we put
Sure. You can go to earnyourleash.com. There's a tab for Market Mondays World Tour. I believe it starts at like 6 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah, I think.
And what would you cover for in LA?
We're going to be talking about stocks.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about real estate. We're going to be talking about financial planning. We're going to be talking about business mindset. We're going to have entertainment. I don't want to say who we're going to have as an entertainment, but big.
Write it down. I'll say it. So I can get the exclusive.
We're going to have
LA's
big.
we're going to do LA the proper way it should be done.
The proper way
should be done.
Hey, man, and we need this. You know what I'm saying? We need this, man, because sometimes we feel like we can't either be in the room, we can't own it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the influence that we have as a people, as a genre, whatever it may be, bro, like we make others millions and billions of dollars. And sometimes we feel like, man, like, no, we can't own that. We can't, you know, we're so busy being consumers. And we don't understand to this day, like I told y'all, man, I'm still learning stocks. I'm still learning what, you know, what the whole crypto game, you know, because I come from how much cash I have in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh no, I got to see. I remember Richard Pryor did a joke a while ago, years ago, where he called his accountant, like, how much am I worth? The accountant was like, oh, such and such. He said, no, bring it over here. I want to see it. You know what I'm saying? And that's, so now, bro, and even when you just tapped into AI, right? That's another thing that I'm like, okay, dude, I can't be a dinosaur. I gotta be on top of this.
That says a lot about you.
Yeah.
Right? It's humbling enough to say, like, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
I need to find out. Right?
Yeah.
Because the worst thing that can happen is like it's happening. We have no investment in it. We have no idea, and it's just happening to us.
Right.
Rather than it be something that can be happening for us and we can benefit from. That's humbling.
And what about AI? What's coming? What am I not seeing?
It's crazy. We was having a conversation the other day, and we was talking about, and I was telling Troy, I'm like, AI is going to replace humans as far as any human task. It's scary, really, if you think about it. But any human task, AI is going to be able to replace in the next decade, and it's going to be able to do it way more efficient than humans
That's
can
the
do
key.
it.
Efficiency.
So AI is coming, man. It's already here. But when you look at everything from how we travel to how we communicate, you know, look at ChatGPT. You could write a book. In 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, man.
Write curriculum,
Yeah.
write
If
standardized
I would have had
testing.
that, my grades would have been amazing.
Yeah, New York State's banning it so that the kids can't use it. But like,
Oh, really,
you know,
though?
you know what happens when things get banned.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen this happen with alcohol.
Yeah,
right?
back though. Yeah. Man, so, and you know what's crazy? When we used to think about AI or artificial intelligence, we would think movies and it's going to be broad and, you know, but now you look at it on the scale, you're like, no, this is here. And this is in our lives, bro. And it's not as big as we thought it was going to be. Like, oh, you go and you transform into something. Like, it's here.
It's not the Jetsons.
Yeah, exactly, man.
So what happens is it happens in small increments that you don't realize. But what it does is it affects the economic underclass the most, the first. So it's like, I never forget, in New York, you know, we have a lot of tolls. So, you know, it used to be when you go to a toll, somebody would actually break the money for you. And then that was no more. And now it's just all Easy Pass. Either you have an Easy Pass or it takes a picture of your license plate and it bills you in the mail.
Right.
Think about how many jobs was lost because of that. But also think about how much more efficient it is as opposed to having to stop 2 minutes. They give you $1. Like, you know, now you just drive straight through, right? So the efficiency on one aspect has caused thousands of people to lose their job on another aspect. That's just one thing. So what happens when all grocery stores no longer have cashiers? All, you know, everything that you can think of, especially on the manual labor side, there's no more. Right?
Bro, have you been to this Whole Foods on Coldwater?
Nah.
Bro, you walk
Cashless?
in there, they got, I don't know what's in the ceiling.
Yeah, they got. I seen it. It's the cameras in the ceiling.
Bro, and I'm talking about
Yeah.
probably 1,000 of these. And you walk in, you just, you're like, it's so bad, I don't
like
even
you're
want to
stealing.
go in there.
Yeah,
like
but
you're
so where did we see that first? Enemy of the State, right?
Right.
When we saw
See,
Will Smith.
Hey, man, and that's what we were saying. Yeah, when you see certain things in movies, you're like, oh, man.
Yeah, until it happens in your supermarket or it happens in a city like London when the whole city's under surveillance.
I remember, man, I was in Japan years ago, and I was in a convenience store with some of my reps out there. And when he went to go pay for everything, he put his wallet down, just like, deek. And I was like, what the? You know what I'm saying? Like, now you see the tap and you see everything. I had never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
In Japan one time. And I asked my guy, I said, man, what are they doing? He was like, I had never seen a phone that had a camera until I was in Japan. And it wasn't a whole like, oh, this is coming. The first time I saw it, someone had it. And now when you fast forward, that's regular. That's regular life.
It's regular, and then the next thing will be just your hand.
Yeah.
Right.
Over here at this other spot.
Your hand scan.
Yeah, it's a hand scan. I'm like, oh my Lord.
But like you said, like traveling overseas, it makes you appreciate things because they move at a much faster pace. So it's a window of what's coming. And in London, I didn't know, like, we go to the clubs and all that, they make you like take your hat off or wear your hat to the back. And I'm like, why? And I realized that they have facial recognition.
Oh my God.
So they
it's like in the airport. You walk through and it's like, yo, step to the side. During COVID, why? Oh, your temperature. Your temperature's over 100. How'd you know? They did the body scan on you when you walked in the airport. These things are happening.
And that's why I say you can't be a dinosaur. Give me no, man. You know, like,
that ain't me. Yeah, that's you, bro.
You better get in line.
Yeah.
You better get in line. So, man, is it Saturday, March 11th? Is that a Saturday?
Saturday, March 11th, Novo Theater. You can get your tickets at earnyourleisure.com.
Yes,
you guys are all welcome to come.
Man, I'm going to be there, bro.
If you want to pop
Absolutely.
out.
I'm definitely going to be there, bro.
We got some major surprises. We're going to do it right for LA. And LA is always,
hey, man, it could be no surprises there. I'm going for the novice.
it.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I appreciate that.
Like,
thank you for having us on your
Man, my
platform.
pleasure,
It's something
bro.
that we watched for a long time. Legendary interviews, Nipsey Hussle, like
Yes, sir.
a lot of stuff that we've watched and appreciated. So, legendary platform that you
Thank you,
created.
brother.
Congratulations and thank you for having us.
Man,
Absolutely.
yeah, man. And like I say, I'm going to keep going. I'm under construction. I constantly learn every day, bro. And I thank you, gentlemen, for coming into the neighborhood, man. And like I say, when I tap in, it's never any wasted time tapping in and seeing what's going down with you
Appreciate
guys.
that,
I don't
man.
even know. Have y'all ever put up a picture of y'all food on Instagram?
Stories.
Speaking of food, man, you guys were at the Rock Nation brunch.
Yes.
How did y'all get in there? I was talking with LMA about this not too long ago.
We saw it there.
Yeah, you saw her there too.
She was there.
Let me ask you this, man. Did you see me there?
We did not see you
Yeah,
there.
man. Yeah. I'm not that I'm not doing something right, or I'm doing something wrong, but yeah, I haven't been invited to that yet.
Not
We're
yet.
gonna call Hov.
Yeah, nah. Let me earn my leisure. All right, if you want to call, go ahead. Let me pick your brain real quick. Yeah. So how was that, man? Being on, I saw it on social media. How was that? Am I crying? No, I'm not crying. Am I tearing up?
No, you good, big.
Oh, okay, yeah, man. Nothing. You know what I'm saying? I don't even eat brunch. Now, how was that?
It was an experience.
Yeah.
Jay's somebody that we've looked up to for a long time, and it's funny. It's like the running theme on Earn Your Leisure. And like we gonna say his name until he's sitting next to us.
Right. I hear
Every
you.
year that that we didn't get invited, we like, oh, they must have forgot our address. And so to be there this year and to experience firsthand, it was like, all right. We've gotten to a point where people are starting to realize the power of the work that we've been doing, the impact of the things.
When y'all sat with Steve Harvey, bro, that was like,
I think that's the one that changed it for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Legendary.
yeah, man. That sit down with Steve, and I know hopefully y'all didn't have cancer from all that cigar smoke.
If you watch, here's the crazy part. If you watch the interview, he takes one pull.
You right
For
And
2.5
hold
hours.
it. Yeah, hey man, that's what I get. That's what I get with dogs sometimes. Dog will light a joint and just be like, yeah, big. Yeah, when I first, and then I'm like, man, are you gonna smoke this shit? Like, yeah. So Steve's just one of them holders.
He's
up.
holding it.
I
He was
heard
talking
that.
the whole time. I'm like, yo, this is all right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Once we left that interview, we walked out and we looked at each other. And we're like, our lives are never going to be the same.
Y'all knew it then, huh?
Right there.
So many people are tapped in too, man. But it was so many jewels there. You know what I'm saying? It almost felt wrong to watch it for free. You know what I'm saying? Because it was so much, and it's crazy because you could tell people like, man, here's the knowledge, here's the such and such. What you gonna do with it? You know what I'm saying? It depends on what we do with it, bro. So hopefully, man, like you guys sitting down with me, man.
Can I ask you a question before we leave?
Please do.
Hip hop question. I don't know if you can answer it because it might be too politically, but somebody else. Who's your top 5 LA rappers ever?
I can't answer that. I gotta walk the streets.
Nobody want to answer that?
Let me tell you. Top 5 LA. Top 5 LA.
Mount,
And surrounding areas like Compton, Long Beach, like
Okay,
Mount Westmore.
the greater LA area.
let me tell you.
Five. Now, we're not going to make it Rushmore where it's 4. We're going to make it Mount Westmore where it's 5.
Right. For me, LA, you ever heard of King T?
Of course.
King T for
That's the
me
80s.
from Compton. Yep.
That's the
King
80s.
T, that was the first person that I felt with the Cadillac.
I took his name.
The
My video game name was King T.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
that was, man, for those that know, they know. As far as like, the NWAs, the things of that nature, the rolling with the Cadillac, and you know, I never heard somebody say Crip or Blue Rag until I heard King T. 'Cause everybody was on a lifestyle that you didn't see represented in hip hop. So early on, it was like the King T, the Toddy T, Mixmaster Spades, brothers like that, DJ Pooh. Kendrick, if I fast forward to Kendrick is what it is like right now. And I felt the same vibe early on when you had like Ice Cube has always been a top MC to me. And being from the West, he introduced so much culture to the West. So I got to put King T, Ice T, Kendrick, Snoop Dogg as an artist and as a brand. You know what I'm saying? Like Dogg is just one of those people that you don't say rapper, Snoop Dogg. You just say Snoop. You know? And so what will my last one be?
So you had King T.
Ooh.
King T, definitely.
King T, Kendrick, Ice T, and Snoop.
Yep.
Okay, you got one more.
And for my last one, from the West. Damn, that's hard.
All the rappers gonna be mad at you.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. Oh, man. Ooh.
Uh-oh. Let me look around. See if
Yeah.
I knew his picture was up. I was gonna.
Who, Game or Snoop?
I see Chuck is back
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Snoop's over
Game is a hella lyricist. And I think people sleep on Game.
Game's tough.
And that's why there's even times where I just call him. I'm like, dude, I'm listening right now. And you know what? On my fifth one, I'm going to tap out. There's so many more.
All right.
Right.
I'll put Nip in there for y'all.
Yeah. Oh, and Nip, one thing with Nip as well, Nip was, you know how sometimes you feel robbed? There was a comedian years ago by the name of Robin Harris.
Yep, House Party. That's my favorite movie.
And Robin Harris, man, I felt robbed that I didn't get a chance to hear what else was coming.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same way. Like Nip sat right there in that chair. You know what I'm saying? Many a times. I feel robbed that I didn't get a chance, not just Nip as an artist,
As a man.
but as a man and where he was going. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, man, we see, like I've been in the business where I've seen somebody at 20 and I've seen them at 40. And when I see the dash, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I wish I would have been able to see with Nip.
Yeah.
Is where it was going, the books he would hand to people. You know, I remember we did Khaled's Cruise and everybody was up there turning up. Oh, Khaled's Cruise, everybody's crazy.
Yeah.
They gave him a day and he did a sit down about business. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's what I miss from Nip too, bro. So I would definitely throw Nip in my 5.
Is Pac included?
Pac, you said LA or West Coast?
Well, Pac not from LA.
Not from LA.
Right.
All right. Okay, got you.
There
Got
it
you.
is.
LA.
All right, y'all stick around. Y'all radio's Big Boy Neighborhood.